Hey there. Tonight, we're diving into the strange world of Victorian social rules. And trust me, these people came up with some pretty bizarre ideas about proper behavior. Stuff that'll make your most awkward modern moments look easy. Oh, and before we jump in, if you're enjoying these kinds of stories, I'd love it if you gave this video a like or hit that subscribe button. Also, I'm super curious. Where are you listening from right now, and what time is it there? Drop it in the comments. It always amazes me that people tune in from all over the world, sometimes even falling asleep to this. All right, let's head back to Victorian England. Buckle up, because this ride is going to be fascinating. So, congratulations. You've just woken up in London, sometime around 1850. Your eyes flutter open, and you realize you're lying in a narrow iron bed frame. Definitely not the memory foam mattress you're used to. This one's stuffed with horsehair, prickly, a little lumpy, and not exactly comfortable. The room feels cold, really cold. The fire that was burning when you fell asleep has faded down to glowing embers, just bright enough to cast shadowy shapes of the furniture around you. A heavy wardrobe, a washstand with a ceramic basin, and a small dressing table with a mirror. From outside, you catch the distant rumble of iron-rimmed carriage wheels rolling across cobblestones. Somewhere down the street, a dog barks. The air is thick with the smell of coal smoke, because in London, coal smoke is everywhere. It seeps under doors, through window frames, through every little crack. Mixed into it is a faint hint of bergamot oil from the perfume bottle on your table, that sharp citrusy scent that's incredibly popular right now. The sheets around you are plain cotton, not especially soft, but at least they're clean. You're wearing a flannel nightgown, buttoned tightly all the way to your chin. Heaven forbid anyone should catch a glimpse of your neck or wrists while you're asleep. That would be downright scandalous. Beside your bed sits a little bell. You reach for it, give it a gentle ring, and almost instantly, footsteps echo up the stairs. Your maid, Mary, steps into the room. She's already dressed neatly, despite the early hour. "Good morning, miss," she says, with a quick curtsy. "Shall I draw the curtains?" Without waiting for your reply, she strides to the window and pulls back the heavy velvet drapes, letting in the weak, gray daylight. The glass is smeared with soot from the countless chimneys pumping smoke into the air. "What would you like to wear today, miss?" Mary asks, opening your wardrobe to reveal rows of dresses, each one more elaborate than the last. And here's where your crash course in Victorian etiquette really begins. Because in this society, what you wear, how you speak, how you walk, who you talk to, and when you talk to them, basically every single thing you do today, is controlled by one of the most complicated social codes in history. The Victorians were essentially living life on expert mode. One small misstep, and you risk complete social disgrace. "You have a morning call with Mrs. Hartley at 11, Mary reminds you, selecting a deep blue day dress from the wardrobe. "And tea with your cousin Emily at 4. Lesson number 1, morning calls. Despite the name, these visits almost never happened in the morning. They usually took place between 3 and 5 in the afternoon. I know, it makes absolutely no sense, but if you ever dared call them afternoon calls, people would look at you like you'd completely lost your mind. Morning calls were strictly a thing, and they had to last exactly 15 minutes, not 14, not 16, 15, on the dot. You'd better have a pocket watch handy too, because overstaying was considered incredibly rude. Mary begins helping you dress, which is an entire ordeal in itself. First comes the chemise, a plain cotton slip worn next to the skin. Then the corset. Oh boy, the corset. She wraps it snugly around your waist. and starts pulling the laces tight. Tighter, you insist, remembering that a proper Victorian lady is supposed to have a waist so small it could practically be spanned with 2 hands. Yes, miss, Mary replies, tugging harder until you can barely draw a full breath. Your ribs feel like they've shifted, and your lungs only expand halfway. But hey, that's fashion for you. Next, she adds, layer upon layer. Petticoats. 1, 2, 3 of them, each adding volume and weight to your lower half. Then comes the crinoline, a cage-like frame made of steel hoops that spreads your skirt wide like a giant lampshade. Finally, the dress itself is slipped over everything, a bodice tight across your torso, and a massive skirt that swallows the space around you. Altogether, you're now carrying close to 15 pounds of clothing. Mary moves on to your hair, brushing it back with severity and twisting it into a precise bun at the nape of your neck. Not a single flyaway allowed, everything neat, everything controlled. Will you be wearing gloves or mittens today, miss? Mary asks, holding up both options. Gloves, you answer quickly. After all, a respectable Victorian lady never ever shows her bare hands in public. Hands remain hidden at all times, thanks to this strange modesty rule that treats them almost like forbidden territory. As Mary slips the gloves onto your fingers, you recall another key guideline: no perfume. Queen Victoria herself had declared that the heavy, musky fragrances of the past were vulgar. Instead, the acceptable choice is something far more discreet. You take your handkerchief and dab just a little lemon and bergamot oil onto it, just enough to smell fresh, clean, but not enough to suggest you're trying to seduce someone with a scandalous scent. Finally dressed, you head downstairs for breakfast. The house is already buzzing with activity. Servants move briskly through the halls, dusting, sweeping, polishing. The cook, who has been up since dawn, is putting the finishing touches on the morning meal. In the dining room, your father sits at the head of the table with his newspaper, while your mother is at the opposite end, busy scribbling letters. Both of them are fully dressed for the day because no self-respecting Victorian would ever appear at breakfast in anything resembling casual attire. Good morning, you say as you take your seat. Your father lowers his newspaper just enough to give you a brief nod, then raises it again. That's it. No hugs, no kisses, no warmth. Public displays of affection, even within the family, are simply not done. Breakfast itself is hearty: eggs, bacon, kidneys, toast, porridge. For Victorians, this is the largest meal of the day. You try to eat, but your corset makes it nearly impossible to take more than tiny, careful bites. Remember, Jane, your mother says, without looking up from her writing. Mrs. Hartley's daughter has just become engaged. Be sure to congratulate her, but don't ask about the wedding. That would be presumptuous. You nod, tucking away the reminder. This is the essence of Victorian society, an invisible rule book where you must acknowledge important events, but never pry too deeply. Showing too much curiosity is considered vulgar. After breakfast, you find yourself with a few spare hours before your morning call. You settle in with your needlework, a suitably feminine pastime, because remember, idle hands are the devil's workshop, and a proper Victorian lady is never ever idle. You settle by the window in the drawing room, carefully stitching a cluster of flowers into a square of linen. A few moments later, your mother joins you, her own needlework in hand. I saw Mrs. Fairchild yesterday, she remarks casually. Her son has returned from university. You keep your eyes on your embroidery, though your heart skips a beat. Thomas Fairchild. You danced with him at a ball last season, just before he left for Oxford. He had kind eyes, and unlike most of the young men you've danced with, he managed not to step on your feet. How nice, you reply, your tone deliberately neutral. She mentioned that he asked after you. Your mother continues, her gaze flicking toward your face, your cheeks warm, but you maintain your composure. Did he? That's very civil of him. Your mother allows herself a faint, satisfied smile. That restrained response is exactly what she was hoping for. In Victorian courtship, the entire game is about appearing not to play at all. Too much enthusiasm would be improper. At precisely 11:15, you put on your bonnet, gloves, and cloak, then set out with your mother for Mrs. Hartley's house. You carry a small card case containing your visiting cards, dainty slips of paper with your name printed neatly across them. These are an absolute requirement for morning calls. Mrs. Hartley lives only a few streets away, but rushing would be unladylike. Instead, you adopt the proper pace. Small, measured steps, back straight, eyes lowered. Your white skirt sways dramatically with each movement, occasionally sweeping too close to passing dogs or children. Along the street, men tip their hats politely. You respond with the slightest nod, careful never to meet a stranger's gaze directly. A gentleman would never approach a lady without a formal introduction, and a lady would certainly never speak to a man she didn't know. You arrive at Mrs. Hartley's doorstep at precisely 11 o'clock. Not early, not late. Both would hint that your calendar isn't full enough, a potential social embarrassment. The butler answers, and you hand him 2 cards, one for yourself and one for your mother. He accepts them on a polished silver tray before leading you into the drawing room, where Mrs. Hartley and her daughter Charlotte are waiting. Everyone curtsies. No hugs, no kisses. Physical contact is kept to the bare minimum. "How kind of you to call," Mrs. Hartley says warmly, gesturing for you to take a seat. You arrange yourself carefully on a small sofa. Sitting with a crinoline is practically an art, perching right on the edge to make space for the steel cage beneath your skirts. "We were so pleased to hear your happy news," your mother says to Charlotte, who blushes with modesty. "Thank you," Charlotte murmurs, her eyes lowered. "Mr. Edwards is very kind." And that's all you'll hear. No details about the fiancé, no talk of wedding plans, no romantic confessions. Asking questions would be prying, and Victorians do not pry. The conversation shifts to safe, neutral topics. The weather, cloudy, but thankfully dry. A recent sermon at church, uplifting, though mercifully brief. A musical performance you all attended, skillful but tastefully restrained. Everything is spoken of in the most moderate terms, nothing too strong, nothing too opinionated. After all, passionate opinions are for the lower classes. After exactly 15 minutes, your mother gives the faintest of nods. That's the signal. You rise to your feet, and so does she. "It was so lovely to see you," Mrs. Hartley says, standing as well. More curtsies, more polite farewells, and just like that, you're back out on the street. Morning call successfully completed. You think to yourself, "That went well," your mother remarks as you walk home. "Charlotte looked well, didn't she?" "Very well," you reply. In Victorian conversation, well is about the highest compliment one can offer. Back at home, you enjoy a light luncheon, then spend the early afternoon reading an improving book. Nothing too dramatic, nothing too romantic. Novels that stir the emotions are frowned upon for young ladies. They're thought to be potentially dangerous. By 4 o'clock, your cousin Emily, arrives for tea. The ritual mirrors a morning call, though the atmosphere is a touch more relaxed since she's family. Still, you sit with perfect posture, speak in carefully measured tones, and avoid any topic that might drift too close to gossip. When Emily departs, you have a stretch of time before dinner. You practice the piano for precisely 1 hour, enough to maintain your skills, but not so much that anyone could accuse you of harboring inappropriate ambitions of becoming a professional musician. Dinner is served at 7. It's a relatively informal family meal, since no guests are present. Even so, you change into another dress, something slightly finer than your day dress, though not as elaborate as an evening gown. In Victorian life, clothing changes are constant, each outfit tailored precisely to the time of day and the occasion. At the table, conversation remains polite, but never deeply personal. Your father discusses business matters with your brother. Your mother brings up her charity work. You listen attentively, offering a mild comment only when directly addressed. After dinner, the family retires to the drawing room. Your father and brother slip away to the study for brandy and cigars, while you and your mother remain. Ladies never smoke, and their drinks rarely go beyond a small glass of sherry. You take your turn at the piano, filling the room with gentle music, then return to your needlework. By 10 o'clock, the household begins winding down. Mary helps you undress, unfastening each heavy layer until, at last, the corset comes off. You inhale deeply, finally able to breathe again. "Will you need anything else, miss?" Mary asks softly as she helps you into your flannel nightgown. "No, thank you, Mary," you reply, settling into bed with a sigh of relief. She curtsies, takes the oil lamp, and slips out, leaving only the faint glow of the fire's embers. Lying in the dark, you reflect on the day. All those rules, all that restraint, it's exhausting. Yet, strangely, there's also comfort in the predictability of it all, in always knowing what's expected of you. As you drift towards sleep, your thoughts turn to tomorrow. There will be a formal dinner party, a whole new maze of etiquette to navigate, but that can wait until morning. For now, the muffled sounds of the city outside lull you toward dreams, and just before sleep overtakes you, one image lingers in your mind: Thomas Fairchild with his gentle eyes. In a world so bound by restraint and control, even the smallest spark of connection feels profound. You can't help but wonder if you'll see Thomas soon, and what elaborate dance of etiquette you'll have to perform if you do. Outside, the fog rolls in from the Thames, wrapping the city in its damp, chilly embrace. Gas lamps glow through the haze, their light forming soft halos on the cobblestones. A carriage rattles by, wheels clattering on the uneven street. Somewhere in the distance, the night watchman calls the hour. And across London, behind prim facades and shuttered windows, Victorians sleep, bound by their rigid social rules, even in their dreams. Morning arrives with the familiar sound of Mary pulling back the curtains. Weak winter sunlight struggles to pierce through the heavy London fog. Another day of propriety lies ahead. "Good morning, miss," Mary says, setting a cup of hot chocolate on your bedside table. "It's going to be a busy day." You take a sip as she lays out your morning dress. Today is no ordinary day. You will be attending a formal dinner party at the Fairchilds' home. Yes, those Fairchilds, and Thomas will be there. The morning passes in a blur of preparation. Your mother insists on 2 full hours of piano practice instead of the usual one. "The Fairchilds may ask you to play," she explains. Mrs. Fairchild mentioned their new pianoforte. It would be rude to decline. Another rule to commit to memory: Never refuse a direct request to demonstrate your accomplishments, but, just as important, you mustn't appear too eager either. It's a delicate balance. After lunch, you and your mother take a light solo stroll in the park. The crisp winter air feels cleaner than the cold, heavy rooms indoors. Ladies glide along the pathways, nodding politely to acquaintances. Gentlemen tip their hats as they pass. Remember, your mother whispers as you walk. At dinner, seating is determined by rank. Whatever your place at the table, don't let your reaction show. You nod solemnly. The Victorian dinner table is a battlefield of hierarchy. The most important male guest sits to the hostess's right, the most important female guest to the host's right. Everyone else is arranged downward in order of significance. Ending up near the bottom is a clear signal about your social standing. Back at home, preparations for the evening begin in earnest. A formal dinner party requires nothing less than perfection. Mary runs a bath, adding a few drops of rose oil to the steaming water. The bathroom is still cold, despite the small fire flickering in the grate. You bathe quickly, shivering as you step out onto the chilled floorboards. Then comes the ritual of dressing. Tonight calls for full evening wear. Your corset is drawn tighter than usual, squeezing your waist into an almost impossible shape. The crinoline is larger, widening your skirt even further. Your gown is pale blue silk, trimmed delicately with lace. The neckline dips lower than your day dresses, revealing your collarbones and just the barest suggestion of shoulder, the maximum amount of skin an unmarried woman can decently display. Mary arranges your hair into an intricate style, tucking small silk flowers among the curls. A dusting of rice powder gives your skin the fashionable pale look, though no rouge touches your cheeks. Rouge is for actresses and for women whose reputations are already in question. "You look beautiful, miss," Mary says softly, stepping back to admire her work. You hardly recognize the figure in the mirror, poised, elegant, controlled, a perfect Victorian young lady. Your waist impossibly small, your skirts extravagantly wide. Fashion is uncomfortable, sometimes even painful, but in this world, fashion is law. Your father has arranged for a carriage to take you to the Fairchild's home. Walking is out of the question. The cold night would undo your carefully arranged hair, and arriving on foot would hardly convey the right impression. A carriage signals comfort, refinement, and prosperity. The wheels clatter to a stop outside a grand townhouse on one of London's most fashionable streets. Every window glows with light. A footman in livery swings open the door and offers his hand as you step down onto the pavement. Inside, warmth and brilliance surround you. Gaslighting, the latest modern marvel, floods the entrance hall with a steady glow. A maid slips away with your cloak, revealing your carefully chosen evening gown. The butler clears his throat and announces your arrival with practiced formality. Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, and Miss Jane Wilson. Dozens of eyes turn toward you. Heat rushes to your cheeks, though your expression remains perfectly composed. You sink into graceful curtsies before Mr. and Mrs. Fairchild, and then you see him, Thomas, standing beside his mother, taller than you remember, his evening attire drawing subtle attention to his broad shoulders. He bows with exact precision, neither too deep, which might seem obsequious, nor too shallow, which would border on insolence. "Miss Wilson," he says, his voice deeper than memory, "how pleasant to see you again." "Mr. Fairchild," you reply, carefully measured. "I trust Oxford agrees with you." For the briefest moment, A smile touches his lips. It does, thank you. Though, London has attractions Oxford cannot claim. A spark of warmth flickers in your chest. Was that a flirtation? With Victorian men, it is difficult to tell. Compliments come swaddled in layers of restraint. More guests arrive. The drawing room fills with the murmur of polite conversation. Everyone remains standing. Sitting before dinner would betray eagerness, which is vulgar. Across the room, Charlotte Hartley and her fiancé, Mr. Edwards, stand side by side, but with studied restraint. No hand upon hand, no lingering glances. To the casual eye, they might not even be engaged. At last, the butler steps forward once more. Dinner is served. The true performance begins. Guests pair off in an elegant procession. The host, Mr. Fairchild, offers his arm to the most distinguished lady. The ranking gentleman escorts the hostess. Everyone else arranges themselves according to status, the choreography of hierarchy unfolding smoothly. You find yourself paired with a middle-aged gentleman you've not met before. Across the room, you notice Thomas offering his arm to an elderly lady whose towering turban of fabric makes her look almost regal. The dining room is a dazzling sight. Crystal sparkles in the candlelight. Silver gleams. Each place is laid with intimidating precision. Forks, spoons, and knives for every possible course. An arsenal of etiquette where one misstep could prove disastrous. Your seat is midway down the table. Not the top, not the bottom. Respectable, though unremarkable. Thomas sits opposite you, several seats away, close enough to see, far enough to be unreachable. As custom dictates, conversation flows only with the gentleman to your left and right. The man on your right leans towards you. I believe you're acquainted with my nephew, Miss Wilson, Charles Pembroke. If I'm not mistaken, you danced with him at Lady Hamilton's ball last season. You search your memory. Ah, yes, Mr. Pembroke, the one who trod upon your feet 3 separate times and spoke of nothing but his horse. You smile sweetly. Yes, indeed, Mr. Pembroke is an accomplished dancer. A small white lie, offered for the sake of social harmony. The dinner unfolds in stately rhythm. Soup, fish, meat, game, dessert. Each course arrives with its own ritual of service and its precise utensil. You take delicate bites, chew silently, and sip sparingly. A lady is never seen to eat heartily. Even hunger must be hidden. Conversation, too, is carefully curated. No politics, no religion, no money, and certainly nothing personal. Instead, voices murmur of last week's theatrical performance, a new exhibition at the Royal Academy, the capricious weather, or genteel journeys to Italy or France. Across the flickering candlelight, you sense Thomas's gaze. When your eyes meet, he looks away at once. In this world of rigid rules, even the briefest glance can carry the weight of unspoken sentiment. Dessert is cleared, and then comes the moment of ritual divide. Mrs. Fairchild catches the eye of her most distinguished female guest and rises. The signal is unmistakable. All the ladies stand, glide gracefully from the room, and leave the gentlemen to their port and cigars. The segregation is practical and symbolic. The men may speak of business and politics. The women may avail themselves of the chamber pot. Skirts and corsets make timing important, and society maintains the fiction that ladies are too delicate for smoke and strong drink. In the drawing room, conversation reforms into gentle clusters. Mrs. Fairchild, with subtle precision, ensures Charlotte Hartley and her fiancé's mother sit together, a quiet endorsement of their match. Will you favor us with some music, Miss Wilson? Mrs. Fairchild asks, gesturing toward the pianoforte, the dreaded request. You cannot refuse, but neither must you appear eager. If you wish it, Mrs. Fairchild, you answer modestly, though I am certain there are others here far more accomplished. Nonsense, she replies warmly. We have all heard of your talent. There's nothing for it. You rise, arrange your voluminous skirt upon the narrow bench, and place your hands on the keys. A piece by Mozart, complex enough to prove skill, but never ostentatious. Your posture remains perfect, your expression serene. No swaying, no grimacing. Passion must be felt, not shown. When the final notes fade, polite applause ripples through the room. You incline your head in modest acknowledgement and return to your seat, hiding the faint tremor in your hands. A Victorian lady never betrays nerves. Half an hour later, the gentlemen rejoin the company. The air carries the faint tang of cigars, and the younger men circulate among the ladies, while their elders sink into chairs. Thomas makes his approach with careful restraint, pausing to greet others along the way so as not to seem too eager. At last, he reaches you. I enjoyed your performance, Miss Wilson, he says, his tone even. Mozart, was it not? Yes, you reply, his sonata in C major. You played with great feeling, he says, then almost hastily adds, but with appropriate restraint, of course. A small smile tugs at your lips. Thank you, Mr. Fairchild. I understand you are studying the classics at Oxford. And so begins the Victorian version of flirtation, conversations that appear impersonal on the surface, yet shimmer with hidden meaning beneath every carefully chosen word. You and Thomas speak of books, though never those too romantic. Music, yes, but nothing too passionate. Art, certainly, but only the respectable sort, nothing avant-garde. Each topic is a test, a subtle assessment. Is he intelligent? Is she well-read? Would our temperaments suit, hidden beneath this rigid choreography of civility? Across the room you catch Mrs. Fairchild's expression. She is watching the two of you with quiet satisfaction, the look of a mother weaving invisible threads. In Victorian society, it is mothers who are the chief architects of matches, and it is no accident your family was invited tonight. This is a stage, and you and Thomas are the players. The half hour slips past almost unnoticed. At last, Thomas excuses himself with polite reluctance. I should speak with Miss Hartley and offer my congratulations on her engagement. Of course, you reply, concealing disappointment behind your practiced composure. It was pleasant conversing with you, Mr. Fairchild. He bows, perfectly measured. The pleasure was mine, Miss Wilson. As he turns away, your mother drifts discreetly to your side. Her voice is low, meant only for you. He seems quite attentive. Does he? You answer with feigned indifference, as though you had hardly noticed. Your mother's eyes glimmer with amusement. Don't appear too interested, Jane. Nothing sends a suitor running faster than eagerness. The evening flows on. More music, genteel card games, guests circulating from group to group. No one lingers too long in any one conversation. Social harmony requires balance, variety, and constant movement. At precisely 11 o'clock, the first guests take their leave. This, too, is ritual. Their departure signals to the rest that it is now proper to depart. Your father catches your mother's eye. She nods. It is time. You offer thanks to your hosts with the exact degree of warmth demanded. Thomas is nearby. He bows one final time. Until we meet again, Miss Wilson, he says softly. Good evening, Mr. Fairchild, you reply, your voice cool and even, though your heart beats faster. Outside, your carriage waits. Only once Sees you are seated within its shadowed interior. Do you allow yourself a quiet sigh of relief? The evening has gone well. No missteps, no impropriety. And Thomas had sought you out more than once. A successful evening, your father declares as the carriage pulls away. High praise from him. Indeed, your mother agrees. Mrs. Fairchild mentioned they will host a small musical evening next week. We are to expect an invitation. Your heart leaps, though you betray nothing. Another chance to see him. Back at home, Mary helps you undress, folding your gown with care, setting aside your jewelry, unpinning your elaborate coiffure until your hair tumbles loose across your shoulders. Did you enjoy yourself, miss? She asks, gently brushing through the strands. It was a pleasant evening, you reply with deliberate composure. Even with Mary, you must not reveal too much. Servants observe, and servants talk. A whisper in your household may become a rumor in his. When she leaves, you linger at your dressing table. Your reflection gazes back, serene, self-possessed, but your mind races. Did Thomas truly seek you out? What lay behind his mother's approving smile? Will he call, or must you wait until the musical evening? Courtship in Victorian England is no simple dance. It is chess played blindfolded, every move slow, deliberate, and perilous. And there you have it, an entire day in the life of a proper Victorian young lady. From the moment you opened your eyes in that chilly London bedroom to the final sigh of relief in the carriage after the Fairchild's dinner party, every step was ruled by codes, courtesies, and 1,000 invisible expectations. What seems exhausting to us today was second nature to them. A world where a misplaced word, a minute too long at a morning call, or even the wrong fork at dinner could mean social disaster. Yet beneath all the rigid manners and endless rules, real human feelings still managed to bloom, like the quiet glance you shared with Thomas Fairchild across that glittering dining table. That's the fascinating paradox of the Victorian era. So much restraint, yet so many hidden stories beating just beneath the surface. If you enjoyed this journey back in time, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me keep bringing you these stories. And tell me in the comments, would you survive Victorian society, or would you be scandalized by lunchtime? Thanks for listening, and until next time, sleep well, and dream of a world lit by gas lamps, laced with propriety, and hiding 1,000 unspoken romances.